The air in the ballroom was thick with the scent of expensive perfume, laughter echoing off the high ceilings. I stood near the entrance, watching as Nellie moved through the crowd with effortless charm. She always had that ability to make people feel like they were the center of her world, even when they weren't. I used to believe I was special, that the way she looked at me was different. But tonight, something was off. It started with a glance I wasn't supposed to see, a brief, fleeting exchange between her and a man I didn't recognize. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't casual. It was loaded with something I couldn't quite name at first. But my gut knew before my mind caught up. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking, that it was just the way people interact at parties, the way she always enjoyed attention. But that glance, it wasn't meant for me to see. And that was the moment I knew. I spent the next hour playing the part of the perfect husband, holding polite conversations, nodding at jokes, sipping my drink, all while my mind raced. I watched her every move, the subtle touches, the way she leaned in too close, the way her smile stretched just a little too wide when she spoke to him. Then she did something that turned my stomach. She checked her phone, whispered something to him, and walked toward the back exit. He followed just a few steps behind. I stood frozen for a moment, my mind screaming at me to move, to follow, to find out what I already suspected. So I did. And what I found on the other side of that door shattered me. The hallway was dimly lit, the music from the ballroom muffled by the thick walls. My pulse hammered in my ears as I moved toward the back exit, my mind clawing for excuses. Maybe she just needed some air. Maybe she was taking a call. But deep down, I knew better. The door was slightly ajar. I stopped just short of it, pressing my back against the cold wall, steadying my breath. I didn't want to push it open just yet. I needed a second, a moment to prepare myself for whatever was waiting on the other side. Then I heard them. Low voices, a hushed laugh, hers. But it wasn't the laugh she gave when she was amused. It was the one she used when she was flirting, the same tone that once made me feel like the most important man in her world. My chest tightened. Then, the man's voice. Are you sure he doesn't suspect anything? A pause, and then Nellie's voice, soft and reassuring. He's clueless. Clueless. That word cut deeper than I thought possible. I didn't push the door open. I didn't need to. Instead, I turned and walked away, my legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. My mind was no longer in that moment. It was unraveling the past. The late nights, the sudden interest in her appearance, the way she'd started locking her phone. It all made sense now. But more than that, I realized something I hadn't before. I wasn't hurt the way I should have been. I was angry, sure. I was humiliated. But I wasn't shattered. I should have felt destroyed, betrayed beyond repair. But what I felt was something colder, something I never thought I'd feel for my own wife. Indifference. I walked back into the party, grabbed a drink from the bar, and stood there waiting. I wanted to see how long she'd take to return. When she finally did, her smile was flawless, her laughter effortless. She walked straight up to me, leaned in, and whispered in my ear as if nothing had happened. I was just catching up with an old friend, she said. She was testing me. I smiled back at her, raising my glass in a mock toast. Oh, I know, I said. For the first time in our marriage, I saw fear flickering in her eyes. Nellie's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. I saw it. That split-second flash of uncertainty, a crack in her carefully curated facade. She quickly recovered, letting out a soft laugh as she slipped her arm around mine, as if nothing had changed, as if I was still the clueless husband she had just mocked behind that door. But I wasn't. Not anymore. The rest of the party passed in a blur. I wasn't present, not really. I smiled where I needed to, nodded at conversations I didn't hear, played the part of the devoted husband. But inside, my mind was a storm. I wasn't the kind of man to cause a scene. I wasn't going to flip tables or throw drinks. No, that would be too easy for her. Too predictable. I needed to be smarter. So I watched every glance she stole in that man's direction. Every moment her fingers twitched toward her phone only to stop herself. Every time she excused herself to the bathroom for just a little too long. By the time we left the party, I had a plan. She thought I would stay silent. She thought I would turn a blind eye. She had no idea that she had just set the pieces in motion for something she could never undo. The car ride home was quiet, but not the comfortable kind. The kind that pressed against you, thick and suffocating. I could feel her sneaking glances at me, trying to gauge whether I had really meant what I said earlier. I had a great time tonight, she finally said, her voice light, casual, forced. I smiled. Did you? She hesitated. Yeah, it was nice catching up with everyone. I let the words hang in the air before answering. Yeah, I bet it was. Another pause. I could feel the tension coiling inside her. She shifted in her seat, crossing and uncrossing her legs, drumming her fingers lightly on her thigh. She wanted to ask. She wanted to probe. But she didn't, because she was afraid of what she might find. When we got home, she lingered in the entryway, slipping off her heels. I watched her closely. She was stalling, waiting to see if I'd bring it up. I didn't. Instead, I loosened my tie and stretched, letting out a casual sigh. I'm exhausted. I think I'll turn in early. She blinked, thrown off. Oh. Yeah, me too. She followed me up the stairs, and for the first time in years, I realized how robotic our routine had become. The way we brushed our teeth side by side, changed into pajamas, climbed into bed like a well-rehearsed script. But tonight, the script had changed. She slid under the covers beside me, and I could feel her hesitation. Normally, she would turn toward me, rest a hand on my chest, maybe kiss my shoulder. Tonight, she stayed still. Good night, she murmured. I didn't answer. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing, slow, controlled, pretending to be asleep. I wondered what she was thinking, if she was replaying the night in her mind, if she was regretting it, if she knew that by tomorrow, she would wish she had never underestimated me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there motionless, listening to the rhythmic sound of Nellie's breathing, the occasional shift of fabric as she turned in her sleep. I wondered if she was truly resting or if she, like me, was staring into the darkness, weighed down by the unspoken truth that had settled between us. It wasn't just the act of betrayal that ate away at me. It was the smug certainty with which she had done it, the way she had laughed about it behind my back, confident that I was too blind, too trusting, to ever see through her charade. I had spent the last 8 years of my life with this woman. And yet, in that moment, she was a stranger. By the time the sun crept through the blinds, casting long golden streaks across the bed, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. No angry accusations, no dramatic arguments. That's what she would expect. That's the narrative cheaters always anticipate. The outburst, the desperate pleading, the explosive breakup. But I wasn't going to give her the luxury of predictability. I was going to let her hang herself with her own lies. The morning after, when she woke up, she acted as if nothing had changed. She stretched, rubbing her eyes, letting out a soft yawn before rolling over to face me. "Morning?" I turned my head, met her gaze, and smiled. "Morning." Her lips parted slightly, as if she was expecting something else, but I didn't give her anything more. Instead, I got out of bed, showered, dressed, and made breakfast like I always did. I moved through the motions of our life together as if nothing had happened. And that unnerved her. I could see it in the way she watched me over the rim of her coffee cup, the way her fingers tapped against the kitchen counter, restless. She was waiting. Waiting for me to say something, waiting for me to accuse her. But I didn't. I let the silence stretch between us, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. "Is something wrong?" she asked, feigning casual interest. I looked up from my plate, brow furrowing as if confused. "No." "Why?" She hesitated. "You're just quiet." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Just thinking. Long night." Her fingers tightened around her mug. "Oh." For the first time, I saw uncertainty creep into her expression. She was unraveling, and I wasn't even done yet. I went about my day as usual, heading to work, answering emails, sitting through meetings. But the entire time, my mind was focused on one thing: gathering proof. I had no doubt that Nellie had been careful. She wasn't the type to leave obvious traces behind. But everyone slipped up eventually. That evening, I came home and kissed her on the cheek, acting just as normal as I had in the morning. I asked about her day, made casual conversation, even suggested we go out for dinner. She hesitated but ultimately agreed, and that was exactly what I wanted. Because while we were out, sitting across from each other in that dimly lit restaurant, I watched her phone light up with a message. She glanced at it, barely a second, but I caught it. A name I had never seen before. And the way she tilted her screen ever so slightly, that told me everything I needed to know. The pieces were falling into place, and soon she'd realize the game she thought she was playing had never been in her favor. The message was brief. Just a single name I didn't recognize, accompanied by an unread preview. It vanished quickly as she tapped the screen, locking her phone before sliding it into her purse. But I had seen enough. But I had seen. She thought she was careful, thought she was always one step ahead. But in reality, she had just handed me exactly what I needed. A thread to pull, a direction to follow. I forced a smile, swirling my glass in my hand as I leaned back in my chair. "You seem distracted." Nellie looked up, her fingers tightening around the stem of her wine glass. "Huh? No, I was just checking the time." A lie. A sloppy, unconvincing lie. And that was when I realized something else. She was nervous. It was subtle. The way she avoided eye contact for a beat too long. The way she smoothed her hands over her lap, like she needed something to do with them. She had been waiting for the moment I confronted her. She knew I had seen something, even if she didn't know exactly what. And she was terrified of what I would do next. That was the best part. I wasn't going to do anything, not yet. I was going to let her destroy herself first. I let the night play out like nothing was wrong. I paid for dinner, wrapped an arm around her waist as we walked back to the car, and made casual conversation on the drive home. The entire time, she kept glancing at me from the corner of her eye, like she was waiting for me to slip, to accuse her, to react. but I didn't. When we got home, she hesitated in the doorway, fidgeting with the strap of her purse before finally speaking. "I think I'm going to take a bath," she said, forcing a yawn. "It's been a long day." Ah, there it was. She was giving herself an excuse to disappear for a while, to get somewhere private where she could check her phone without me noticing. Perfect. I nodded, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead. "You deserve it." Her expression faltered just slightly before she turned and walked up the stairs. I listened to the water start running, counted the seconds, then I moved. She thought I was clueless. She had no idea that I had spent the last 2 days setting up a remote sync on our home Wi-Fi, that every device connected to it, including hers, left digital fingerprints behind. I opened my laptop, clicked into the activity log, and watched as her messages updated in real time. Her bath had nothing to do with relaxing, because the moment she got into the tub, she reached for her phone. A message appeared from the unknown name. He didn't say anything? A pause, then her reply. "No, but I think he knows." I stared at the screen, the weight of those words sinking in. She was panicking, she was scrambling, and soon she would slip up. I shut the laptop, closed my eyes, and took a slow breath. I had what I needed. I could have confronted her right then and there, marched upstairs, and shattered the illusion she was desperately trying to maintain. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, listening to the sound of the water draining upstairs. Let her sit in her paranoia. Let her toss and turn in bed, wondering if I was awake, wondering if I was on to her. Let her believe for just a little while longer that she still had control. Because tomorrow, she was going to find out just how wrong she was. The next morning, I woke up before Nellie, or at least I pretended to. In reality, I had barely slept. I didn't need to. I'd spent the night listening to her breathing, feeling the tension radiate off her body as she tossed and turned. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't dare ask. That was the beauty of it. She was unraveling all on her own. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs, making coffee like I always did. The aroma filled the kitchen as I leaned against the counter, staring at my phone. The messages from the night before were still fresh in my mind. She had admitted it. She thought I knew. And now I was going to make sure she never felt safe again. When she finally came downstairs, she looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, hair slightly messier than usual. She barely glanced at me as she made her way to the fridge, pouring herself a glass of orange juice. "Sleep well?" I asked, taking a sip of my coffee. She flinched. It was small, almost imperceptible. But I saw it. "Yeah," she said quickly. "You?" I smiled, like a baby. A lie, but she didn't need to know that. She nodded absently, stirring her juice with her straw, staring at the counter. I could tell she wanted to say something, maybe even ask if I'd seen her phone light up the night before. But she didn't. Instead, she forced a yawn and glanced at the clock. "I think I'll head to the gym this morning." Ah, another excuse. More time away, more time to message him. I tilted my head, pretending to consider something. "Actually, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll come with you." Her body tensed. She wasn't expecting that. "Oh," she said, voice careful. "I mean, don't you have work?" I smiled, sipping my coffee. "I can go in a little late." I watched the gears turning in her head. She was scrambling for an excuse, anything to get out of this. But she couldn't, because what kind of wife would refuse to work out with her own husband? so she forced a smile. Okay, yeah, let's go together. And just like that, I had backed her into another corner. The drive to the gym was quiet. Nellie kept glancing at her phone like it was burning a hole in her pocket, but she didn't dare check it, not with me sitting right next to her. She was anxious. I could feel it in the way she drummed her fingers against her thigh, the way she kept licking her lips like her mouth had gone dry. I made casual conversation, pretending not to notice. I asked about work, about weekend plans, about whether she wanted to have dinner with my parents on Sunday. She answered in short, clipped sentences, her mind clearly somewhere else. I loved it. We worked out together, side by side. Normally, Nellie loved the gym. She thrived on attention, always making sure she looked perfect, always smiling at strangers, pretending not to notice when men glanced her way. But today, she was stiff, distracted, because I was watching her. She knew it. She felt it. And the longer she went without checking her phone, the more agitated she became. By the time we finished, she looked exhausted, not just from the workout. As we walked back to the car, she finally caved. I think I'm going to meet up with Kendra later, she said, buckling her seatbelt. Girls' night, just a little wine and catching up. I nearly laughed. She was throwing every excuse in the book at me, but I played along. Sounds fun, I said, pulling out of the parking lot. Tell her I said hi. She blinked, caught off guard by my easy acceptance. Yeah, I will. I could see the relief flood into her shoulders. She thought she had won this round. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that I had already checked her location history. And Kendra was out of town. By the time evening rolled around, Nellie had dressed up, sprayed on perfume, and grabbed her purse. She kissed me on the cheek before heading out the door. The second she was gone, I moved. I opened my laptop, pulled up the Wi-Fi log, and watched as her phone connected to a different location. Not Kendra's. A hotel. The same hotel she had been to 3 times in the last 2 months. And that was it. That was all I needed. This wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It wasn't just a gut feeling. It was real, cold, undeniable proof. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling the weight of it all settle in. She had played her little game, she had laughed behind my back, and now it was my turn. As I sat there staring at the screen, watching Nellie's phone sit stationary at that same hotel, I realized something. She had no idea she was already caught. I wasn't just some clueless husband piecing together breadcrumbs. She had already given me the entire map, and I was following it right to her destruction. But the best part? She thought she was winning. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and exhaled slowly. There was no need for rage, no need for some dramatic, last-minute confrontation. That's what she'd expect. That's what she had prepared for. No, I wanted her to dig her own grave. I checked the time. She had been at the hotel for an hour now, meaning she had either just arrived in her lover's arms or was wrapping things up. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she thought she was safe, and I was about to take that away from her. I grabbed my phone and scrolled down to a name I hadn't used in months. Kendra. Yes, the same Kendra who was supposedly out with Nellie tonight. The same Kendra who had no idea she had just been used as an alibi. I hesitated for a moment before hitting call. It rang twice before she answered. Hey, long time no talk. Kendra chirped, her voice light, unsuspecting. I kept my tone casual. Hey, Kendra, just checking in. Nellie said you two were having a girls' night tonight. A pause, then confusion. What? Bullseye. I let out a small chuckle. Yeah, she said you guys were meeting up for wine or something. Kendra let out a short laugh. No, I'm at my parents' house 3 states away. I haven't even seen Nellie in over a month. My grip tightened around the phone, but I kept my voice smooth. Huh, that's weird. She must have been confused. Kendra clicked her tongue. Wait, did she tell you tonight? Like, just now? Yeah. Another pause, a long one. Then she sighed. Look, I don't know what's going on, but if she's lying to you about being with me, that's not good. I let out a small hum of agreement. No, it's not. She hesitated again, then said, Are you okay? I smiled, though she couldn't see it. I will be. Then I ended the call. That was it. That was the final nail in the coffin. It was one thing to suspect her of cheating, another thing to catch her lying. But when she started using her own best friend as an alibi, that's when I knew she had been doing this for a long time, and she had no problem lying to me, to my face. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I glanced at the clock. Almost 2 hours now. She was still at the hotel. I smiled to myself. Let her enjoy it, because when she got home, her real night was going to begin. By the time I heard her car pull into the driveway, I was already sitting on the couch, the TV playing some random show I wasn't watching. I didn't even turn my head when the door opened. She walked in, her heels clicking against the floor, her perfume hitting me before she even spoke. Hey, babe, she said, her voice perfectly normal, like she had just come back from a completely innocent night out. I'm so tired. I swear Kendra and I talked for hours. I finally turned to look at her. Her makeup was still flawless, her lipstick slightly smudged, and she reeked of hotel soap. I smiled. Yeah? What did you guys talk about? She let out a light laugh, kicking off her shoes. Oh, work, relationships, life, just girl stuff. I nodded slowly. Huh. Funny, I talked to Kendra earlier. Silence. Dead, cold silence. Her entire body stiffened. Then she turned slowly to face me, her face neutral but her eyes pure panic. She tried to force a laugh. Oh, really? What did she say? I leaned back against the couch, resting an arm on the armrest. That she hasn't seen you in over a month. There it was. The exact moment her world shattered. Her lips parted, her mind scrambled, her entire face going pale. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. What could she say? What excuse could possibly fix this? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I let the silence stretch between us, savoring the moment. She thought she was in control. She thought she was the one keeping secrets. But now the game was mine. Nellie stood frozen in the middle of the living room, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. She was cornered. Every lie, every carefully crafted excuse, every ounce of control she thought she had, gone in an instant. I let the silence stretch, watching her panic settle in. Her fingers twitched like she wanted to grab her phone, to check if Kendra had texted her, to see if there was some way to salvage this. But there wasn't, and we both knew it. Finally, she forced out a laugh, strained, hollow. Okay, look, I did go out, but... I held up a hand, cutting her off. You don't have to explain. She blinked. What? I stood up, adjusting my sleeves, feeling lighter than I had in months, maybe even years. I don't need to hear any more lies. I don't need an apology. and I definitely don't need to spend another second of my life playing along with this joke of a marriage. Her face twisted in panic. Wait! I walked past her, heading toward the staircase. Your stuff is packed, I said casually over my shoulder. It's in the guest room. You can grab it before you leave. She went stiff. What? I turned, leaning against the railing. Oh, did you think I was going to cry? Shout? Beg you to explain why you betrayed me? I let out a dry chuckle. I've known for days, Nellie. Days. You weren't as smart as you thought. Her hands clenched into fists, her face going pale. This isn't fair. I arched an eyebrow. No, fair is me wasting 8 years of my life on someone who never deserved me. She swallowed hard. We can talk about this. No, you can talk. I'm done listening. For the first time, real desperation flickered in her eyes. Maybe she never thought she'd be caught. Maybe she never considered that I'd be the one walking away. She'd spent so long playing this game, lying, deceiving, controlling. But now, she was the one with no power. And I was free. I didn't wait for her to argue. I walked upstairs into the bedroom that no longer felt like ours, grabbed my car keys, and left. I didn't drive aimlessly. I knew exactly where I was going. I pulled into the parking lot of a small bar just outside of town, the one I used to go to before life got complicated, before marriage, before responsibilities. A place that felt like me. The me I had lost. I sat at the counter, ordered a drink, and let out a deep breath. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt peace. No more paranoia. No more second-guessing. No more